Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back, everybody. If you'll excuse me, I'm in the process of reading about his book. I didn't even know he had a book. We've been together a number of times. It's been a little while. And I guess I have a lot of catching up to do with John Riggio. He is a prominent architect in the New York area, serves neighboring states as well within that work. But he has also had a career as a tennis pro. I would never put the two of those together. That's what makes him unique. And that career started years ago when he was much younger. We're going to dig back into the tennis side of John, who joins us once again here on the program. Hi, John. How you doing?
Great. Thanks, Steve. How are you?
Doing well. I want to get deeper into the book in just a moment, but since it's been so long since we talked about your life as a tennis pro legend, let's go back there. At what age did you start really attaining that pro status? How old were you?
I was really just 9 years old when my pro shop was able to make me a pro and put me down as a pro prospect. And that's really when it all started. Of course, I learned how to play tennis when I was younger, maybe 4 years old, going with my family to the tennis courts. Mm-hmm. And I think my father noticed that I had playing ability from there too. He thought maybe I would become a pro tennis player. And then just 1 year after my father had passed away, when I was 8 years old, then at 9 years old, just the next year, I got into that whole thing with getting this Prince tennis racket. And my mother bought the Prince tennis racket. It turns out it was at a pro shop. And when I bent the racket, the pro shop noticed that I was very strong and was probably going to make it as a pro tennis player. And that's what really started it.
A broken racket.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow. There's so many things I'm remembering from the last time we got together, which was a while ago. And it's coming back to me now. The people that you met along the way, the sponsors. Let's go with the sponsors. You know, there were some pretty major sponsors, Mitsubishi. Tell us about some of those those companies that had faith in your tennis career.
Yes. I think just starting from the age of 9, I had my pro stop with Patrick Mulrooney. Then after that, I added on my coach from middle school and high school, Anthony Cambria. And then from there, they then added on Prince tennis racket. Then the next jump from there, which I might not have said back in June of 2023 when we last talked about this, was Richard Branson was the next lead sponsor. When I was on
Virgin, the Virgin Empire, if you will.
That's correct. Yes, Sir Richard Branson. Yes.
Wow.
And that is when I won the Fisher Open, and he was present to see me win that. Then after that, my contract was sold to the lead sponsor, Gloria Vanderbilt. And from there, I then went over to Sutton East in Manhattan, where I played a few years there and was doing excellent. And then what happened was the contract had to get sold because of some problems with keeping the contract renewed. So to renew the contract, it became easier to sell the whole contract, which was really sad. Gloria Vanderbilt was doing great. She really liked to sponsor me. But then it was sold to Ross Perot, who was the lead sponsor. And from there, that whole tennis playing then went over into Long Island at the SUNY Old Westbury campus. And I played there, and I had already described playing all the players from the Japan team and from the Pacific, including all kinds of teams like South Korea, the Philippines, Guam, Indonesia, things like that. And then from there, the Japan Mitsubishi bought my contract, and they were the lead sponsor. So they owned it. And then from there was this little startup delay. It took a while for things to get going. added on Adidas and then Reebok, and Reebok from Britain. They were the lead at that time. So what happened was with Reebok, we were getting much closer to really getting me back on the court playing in those tournaments. So what happened to really give it a boost? I had to call some of my previous sponsors, and they referred me over to Leona Helmsley, and Miss Leona Helmsley was able to take on the contract. And the contract at that time was $120 million.
Wow.
So that whole thing eventually turned out to go up from $120 million all the way up to $140 million plus, because we started off that buy over with a monthly lease. They went for a monthly lease with some profit sharing, so everyone made money. Mitsubishi made money, Adidas, Reebok, that everyone made money on the whole thing when we playing. And I started playing. I was back winning tournaments again. So I think from when we had talked back in 2023, I didn't remember this whole story, but I was back winning again. Leona Helmsley was very nice. She was hoping I could even get a nice marriage, maybe even go into the hotel industry for work. And at this time also, I was also just at the point of in my profession getting licensed as an architect. So that was really good, and I liked all her offers. I was going ahead with all of them. And then that contract unfortunately had to end because of her husband's passed away. He was very old, and the my contract was passed in the will to Mr. Helmsley's children. So one of his children did take the contract, and then I started playing for him. I started playing for one of the Helmsleys. So unfortunately, the owner Helmsley couldn't continue the contract, but they tried to continue it on with one of the Helmsleys instead. And I continued to play some. There was some intermittent stops in between that point. Maybe Leona Helmsley had a lot of years' experience with sponsoring sport players. She knew how to take that whole thing over. And then heading over with Mr. Helmsley, what happens is it ended up getting sold. So he ended up selling it to the Kellogg's. So Mr. Kellogg was somewhat young. He was very young, and he gave it a try. But he was still learning as he was doing the sponsorship. And then my contract then evened out at even $150 million with Mr. Kellogg. So that was pretty good, and we tried doing it, and that went all the way to the year 1998. And I was continuing to play. And I think what happened was, since he was young and he was just sort of giving it a try, he sort of ended that whole thing. He didn't really want to proceed anymore with the sport sponsoring, and he put my contract up for sale. And what happened is I had to sit out at that point. The plane stopped. So unfortunately, that point wasn't even the end. Then it took all the way to the fall of 1999, where I did have another sponsor that was interested in looking at my tennis playing, and they did pay the ATP to have me play some tennis. So I went back to Sudden-East. But what happened between 1998 and 1999 is I get very upset about whatever was happening with the tennis. There was no side tennis, no family friends tennis. The local tennis center, they demolished it and built apartments. They had invited me to play there years ago previous. So there was all kinds of strange things going on. And then I gave my tennis rackets to charity. Now, I think what happened with giving the tennis rackets to charity turned out to be more of a problem than I thought, because when I started playing in 1999, I told them I don't have my tennis rackets. And included in those tennis rackets was my Pro Stock, which was originally like a $1,400 racket, plus stringing is another $250 to have that racket. And most importantly, that racket, the Pro Shop had to write my name down, write the racket, write the poundage of the stringing at 62 pounds. And they had to really keep that record and verify that it's a legal tennis racket. And I think that is the number one point where in 1999 of why they just didn't give me a pro stock racket was because you really need a serious uh, pro shop that has the abilities to really take down that information and it's completely legal. So getting the new pro stock racket wasn't that easy. I didn't look around to buy the pro stock racket. I think they had promised me to give me a pro stock racket, but what happened was I told them I need like a few, either they can give me like maybe 20 matches to warm up. It would take maybe 3, 4, 5 weeks, or I could try to do it on my own. And so there was like a little delay time. I wasn't there at the tennis center, and I received some phone calls like over 6 months, 9 months time. And there really wasn't any training there to get back into tennis. I think if they gave me 20 matches real quick, I can play again for another couple of years without any problem. I have the ability to play. So that's where that ended off with the last sponsor, and so that was the interesting thing, and I think that's really where the end of the career started. So I think so from that time to now, I've been remembering so many things and putting together that list that I finally went ahead and I wrote a book about the whole thing.
Wow. This opens up lots of insight in terms of the sports world and how a contract for a sports figure can be moved on, can be taken from somebody else and then onto this one and then onto that one. You had a lot of perks along the way, if I recall, right down to a car. I think it might have been a Mercedes, but I can't remember the model or the make, where I don't even know if you had a driver's license at the time. I'm trying to remember back. Do you recall?
Yes, there was a few cars involved. One car was at the Sutton East, and that's where they leased a car for $50,000 for 6 months. But there was some problems. I was still young, and the leaser didn't really want me driving the car around, so it just stayed there in front of the tennis center. And it just showed about my playing ability was matching this really nice looking car, expensive car.
Now, what was the point for them? Was it them to say, "Oh, this is John's car"? Nobody knows you're not driving it. But is that the marketing plan with the car?
Yeah, I think at that time, the car was a symbol of my success in playing tennis. That I was making money, and my sponsors were willing to put some money in to get me a nice car to drive. So I think not seeing me drive the car around might not have been a big deal, but the idea was they really did buy the car and they left it there for me,
right,
and they could see it in photographs and things like that. I think that sort of idea somehow took hold, and they had also the car was this McLaren car was with the Ross Perot, and that was a nice expensive car. That was really a car where the leaser really had to bring the car there, and that car took special lessons to drive, but it just stayed there the same way. It was the same idea. It wasn't that many years later. I was still young to drive that kind of car, so it just stayed there as a symbol of my tennis playing, and so that was about it. I had a couple other cars that were my own cars during the time, but I think those were two special cars that they wanted to see me next to the cars. That was a symbol that I'm winning really big.
So I've shared this part with others when we talked about it. This is a couple of years ago, and we're going to get to the new book in a moment, but. Your celebrity connections, one of them being Britney Spears. I was trying to remember how all the pieces came together with that. Can you refresh us?
Yeah, Britney Spears is really, when I was at Sutton East, I talked to her father, Jamie Spears, and she was there too. And they really liked the thing with the entertainment and the sports and everything. And they were friends with Miss Vanderbilt. So they were over there, and I made friends with them. And then by making friends with them, I started to talk to Brittany, and we became friends for a while. So,
Wow.
she was like a girlfriend interest for a while, and we were talking on the phone outside the courts, things like that. It wasn't a big deal, and so she was a good friend. And she's really very smart. And the father, they're very smart, knowledgeable about sports and everything like that. And overall, it was a very good experience that they were there, and I made friends with them. It was pretty good, and kept contact with them for a few years after that too. Used to talk to them. They
Wow.
invited me to come over to Los Angeles, play at the Hammond Court they have over there in the area, and so they were very nice with me.
Cool.
You know, it's
Now,
pretty good.
you referred to Sutton East. We just coincidentally happen to be from Long Island, New York. Um, Sutton East, I'm trying to remember where that was. That on Long Island or was that in the New York City area?
Sun East is still a tennis center in Manhattan. It's on
Oh,
East 59th Street and Sutton Place. This is big bubble. The big bubble, it has like maybe five tennis bubbles inside the bubble.
wow.
And one of the bubbles was my bubble. And that whole entrance where it says Sutton East, I have some pictures I could show you on Facebook. I'll show you the entrance of it. I don't know if let me share it now.
Let me enable you to share a screen so we can take a look at that. And
Okay.
certainly want to remind everybody, John Riggio, that's RIGGIO.com, is your main website. And that's the fascinating part. You do architecture, but tennis too.
Okay, let me just get the picture here. Okay, that's the wrong one.
Why are you grabbing that? When did the book come out?
The book is just released September, or not September, excuse me, February 26th.
Wow. Oh, you mean it's coming out or it's out now? No, it's for
It
sale.
is. It's available for sale. So
Yeah.
it was published February 26th.
Oh, February 26th of 25. Got it. Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
because I see it is available in hardcover and paperback.
Okay, so let me just share this now.
Sure, sure.
Okay, so you can see
Ah,
here the tennis bubble.
mm,
And this is right here looking towards east is Sutton Place. Looking towards Sutton Place.
hmm
And let me just go through some of the pictures. This is showing across the thing, and it's right under the bridge.
Sure.
Because, you know, Manhattan, every little space is really very expensive. So putting this bubble under the bridge is really feasible. And they had it there for a while now. This is like, I think, 1975 or something like that.
Wow.
So this is here. And this is a picture of the present day tennis bubble. It isn't from years ago, but it still looks very similar that it has a play court
hmm
and it has a bubble in there. So this is a small bubble inside that very large bubble. Now,
Wow.
this is the Sun East is was my own bubble, and the other bubbles are the public bubbles that you can go there. Like if you have your city parks card and you go in there, you can play in there. They have lessons and all kinds of things they have for people to play tennis. And on this side was open space, and they put in the bubble just for me, and it had it was a lease space, and it says here Sutton East Tennis. And this is the entrance here. So this was the entrance. They built this entrance just for me. You walk in there, and this is some pictures here.
Wow, amazing.
And this is when I walked in here. They have things on the boards. It shows here Sutton East. It shows a couple other tennis locations. This also is here. And this is just showing. And this is the car that was really in front of the Sutton East. This was the Mercedes Benz. It was
Wow.
very expensive. Wasn't really the everyday Mercedes Benz. It was really very exclusive. This was a sport model. It was a very expensive car to buy.
Wow.
So this is just some pictures of what the Sutton East was.
Sure. How tempting
I
that
think
must have been to receive a vehicle like that, but you can't really drive it. Like it's especially a young guy. What a tease.
Yeah. I went down there to the lease company too, and I discussed some of the cars with them. And it was a little like one of those movies. You go there and they have all the exotic cars there, and I discussed a few models. I think they just sort of selected that particular car. There was a black, really expensive sport Mercedes like that, and so I had talked to them about some different cars, leasing them and things like that. And so they decided on a car and it just stayed there. I think if you look at this, you see there's this side street over here. What's happening here is I used to park my car right around the corner over here. And then I also used to take the subway there. So I used to take the subway and walk around over here. The apartment building over there is where they used to have sort of like a Airbnb where you could go there. They could rent the apartment. They could stay there. And then when the match is ready, they just walk out. They come down the sidewalk here and go into the club. So they don't have to hang around here. This facility didn't have all of the showers and everything for the visiting player. So what happened is they had it where they could stay in their own apartment and then walk into here. I think this whole thing with the tennis bubbles was also new technology. So I think the tennis bubble, everyone including myself, was really saying that the tennis bubble technology could get it developed a little, go up maybe another 10 feet before and have maybe a two-story entrance and with separate lockers, separate off-street parking, and separate entrances and two grandstands. Now, what's happening here? This is where, let me just move this picture to this area. This is where they had the grandstand that is now in Times Square. They built the grandstand over here.
Wow.
So the grandstand was an idea to get general admission. Some of my friends from home, I invited them to come watch me on the grandstand. They came here, they paid the $8 or something like that, and they watched it. They had a flat screen television to see the whole thing, and I could hear them cheering and everything. So that was the how that started. And like what happened with that is it was such a big success that they had to remove it. That was they didn't know how big a success that whole thing with the grandstand was going to happen. Since it was such a big success and people were all over the tennis thing, they had to ended up moving it because it was too big for the size of the property and the different things they have around the property. So that's what happened with the
Incredible.
grandstand. Of course, after that, I told you what happened with they made plans for a tennis center or really multi-use stadium. And that stadium was designed by the same architects that did the three stadiums at the National Tennis Center in Flushing. They had built three stadiums at one time, approximately like around 1988. They had the same architects make the plans for the new stadium that was going to
Sure.
go over in the Polo Grounds.
Well, I'm looking at, we're just out of time.
Oh.
I just want to remind everybody, just fascinating the history that goes along with this. You know, we're talking about your tennis career, but it just translates to history, including the biggest city in the world, New York.
Yes. Also, if I could just share the front of this book, I think you could see here. It's right on Amazon.
Yep.
And the book is called My Own Court: The Life Story of Tennis Legend John Riggio. And this includes my tennis from when I was young. It includes some background about my parents and family. And then it includes things like the prince knighting me. It includes my architect profession, my getting married. And it goes to the present time to where I went to Japan and I met with Mr. Shigeyuki Nishio, who was my sponsor with Mitsubishi. I found him. I took a trip there with my daughter, and I could show you the picture. Let me just unshare this for 2 seconds. Let me just show you the picture. Going to here. Photos. And I have it right there. Okay, let me just share this in 2 seconds. Okay, so I think you can see the picture. This is me on the left. and Mr. Shijiyuki on the right. And this is from years ago when I was calling on the phone. I used to talk to them from my apartment. They used to call me.
Wow.
And he is also a professional tennis player in Japan. He's very famous. And he's interested in making some podcasts also. So I'll have to talk to him again and see if we can arrange a podcast.
Fantastic. Maybe get you guys on. That'd be great. John, thanks for sharing all of this today. Congratulations on the book. Available on Amazon, hardcover, paperback as well. And lots to talk about next time we get together. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks a lot, Steve. It was good talking to you.
You too. We'll be right back.
Hello, my name is John Riggio. I'm the CEO of John Riggio, R.A. Architect, LLC. I provide architect services in the New York City metropolitan area. That includes New York City, New Jersey, and Pennsylvania. My areas are specifically Long Island, the 5 boroughs of New York City, Westchester, Yonkers. In New Jersey, it is North Jersey, Central Jersey, and South Jersey. In Philadelphia, the areas are the Philadelphia metropolitan area. You can find out more information about my company at www.johnriggio.com. That's spelled JOHNRIGGIO.com. And there you will find out a description of my work. It shows a portfolio, pictures of the different job types. And I also have my contact information there. It shows my business address. From there, you can contact me and we can discuss your project. First, we will make an initial consultation. And then from there, we will then go over designing your project and then constructing your project. So I hope to hear from you soon. Thank you. Bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.